Making Your Journey a Pilgrimage. This is Dr. Jeanne Schul. We are sometimes told that to journey without being changed is to be a nomad. To change without journeying is to be a chameleon. But to journey and to be transformed by the journey is to be a pilgrim. So what makes a trip into a pilgrimage? It's a question we'll be considering, and I invite you to come up with your own definitions and ideas. These images of the Blue Cathedral are the Monastery of the Holy Spirit in Conyers, Georgia, and all the images you see will be taken from personal pilgrimages. So to define a pilgrimage, considering it a transformative journey to a sacred center or a holy site, it can be a spiritual exercise as well as an act of devotion. It can also have a sense of being spiritually renewing as a ritual and also life-changing. Pilgrimage is often considered an outer journey to serve our inner transformation. It's also thought to be an intentional journey into an experience of unknowing and discomfort for the sake of stripping away preconceived expectations, enabling us to grow closer to the divine. In The Art of Pilgrimage, Phil Cosino insists, if we truly want to know the secret of soulful travel, we need to believe that there is something sacred waiting to be discovered in virtually every journey. The Romans call this genus loci, or the spirit of place. Carl Jung called it numinosity, the indefinable quality that is the mysterious essence of many ancient sacred places. And this is the Black House Village on the Isle of Lewis, just outside the Callanish Standing Stones. And these are the Callanish Standing Stones, offering us this idea of pilgrimage as a powerful metaphor for any journey with the purpose of finding something that matters deeply to the traveler. Again, Phil Cosino in The Art of Pilgrimage explains, with a deepening of focus, keen preparation, attention to the path below our feet, and respect for the destination at hand, it is possible to transform even the most ordinary trip into a sacred journey, a pilgrimage. So, what makes a traveler a pilgrim? Again, these are more images of the Callanish stones in the Outer Hebrides on the Isle of Lewis. A question to consider for yourself is perhaps what is calling you to this time of pilgrimage. Cosino insists that it's openness, attentiveness, and responsiveness that are the essence of pilgrimage. An important question to ask is, what do you consider sacred? What would make your journey a pilgrimage? It could be architecture that you find brings you closer to a sense of the divine, perhaps glorious cathedrals or lovely churches, perhaps temples, perhaps synagogues, just becoming aware of what it is that calls you. Or perhaps it's megaliths, and a megalith is often found in a rural setting, whether it's in a field or woods, and it often has a distinct atmosphere or character about it. The setting of these megaliths seem to change with the changes of weather conditions, qualities of light, as well as the season of the year. And they often feel best when seen alone, because a crowd in those settings can really destroy the sense of place and how we as individuals experience these ancient monuments. Perhaps it's landscapes for you. Some of the sacred places often have a core set of natural places such as mountains or caves, rock outcroppings or springs, but they're also embellished with culturally distinct symbols. And these are places that feel liminal, kind of tucked between the mundane and the spirit world. They can also be entry points into another consciousness. Or perhaps you feel called to locations where saints, gods or goddesses, or heroes have once traveled or been subject to sacrifice. Travelers cannot find deep meaning in their journey until they encounter what is truly sacred. What is sacred is worth our reverence. What evokes awe and wonder in the human heart, and what, when contemplated, transforms us utterly. This is the Tulum Pyramid in the Yucatan Peninsula. The holy longing. Uncover what you long for, and you will discover who you are. And this is Chichen Itza, also in the Yucatan Peninsula. So where do you yearn to be? What is calling you? Can you name it? It gives you a starting place. Perhaps you feel called to visit shrines. In many countries, we'll find shrines along the way, which can always be compelling to see what the local people have demonstrated their devotion to or for. It can become a matter of heeding the call to the sacred journey your secret heart longs for won't come by expectation. It will not arrive in a logical way. If you imagine that something is trying to call you, then consider practicing stillness or solitude or meditation, because in these quiet moments, perhaps something may be trying to reach you, whether it's a voice or a sense of destiny. Also imagine what has called you recently, or what are you feeling called to visit. A part of this process is preparing for the journey, understanding and deciding the how and where of the journey, but also what gifts to bring. See if you can imagine what you'd like to show gratitude to for those who offer you hospitality along the way, whether they're children of friends you may visit, or just kind people along the way who invite you for tea or to visit their garden. So consider packing ahead. A pilgrimage journey is a necessity, and you can start writing in it even as you begin to contemplate your journey, because a pilgrimage is an opportunity to reconnect with your soul. You can begin to write your impressions as you prepare, and also begin to make it a practice. I recommend that you learn as much as you can about the sacred sites you'll be visiting. You can read books by pilgrims who've gone before you. Find the best travel and guidebooks and maps of the area. Perhaps you like to watch videos of your destination, and even consider whether you want a local guide. And then consider your departure and who you want to see you off, whether that's off to the airport, off to a cruise ship, or off to say goodbye as you drive away. Also, if you can, imagine who you would love to have you offer a blessing at your departure. At the threshold, journeys call us across borders. Thresholds are the liminal places where we release the old and the new has not yet come into fullness. This threshold, this orange door, is in southwestern England. So, if you're in a place of discernment in your life, a season of pondering your next step, then perhaps you consider yourself at a threshold. You may even ask yourself, at which threshold am I now standing? At this time in my life, what am I leaving? And where am I about to enter? This Korean door and soul, we might consider, what is preventing me from crossing my next threshold? The threshold is more than an architectural detail. It is a mythological image that evokes the spirit of resistance we must pass through on our risky journey from all we've known to all that's unknown. It's the first step toward renewal. And thresholds are liminal space, the place between, of not knowing what comes next. And they are powerful places of possibility. This threshold is the entrance to Bristol Cathedral in southwestern England. On pilgrimage, in each of us dwells a pilgrim. It is the part of us that longs to have direct contact with the sacred. We will travel halfway around the world and endure great sacrifice and pain to enter the sanctuary, whether it is a temple, shrine, cemetery, or library. This is the way that is no way but a practice. The Pilgrim's Way. Your practice is your path. And this is Glasgow Cathedral in Scotland. Allowing us to begin to wonder, what is our purpose? And in a moment now, notice what is life-giving and what is life-draining currently in our life. So we're invited to choose a path with heart and consider what will be the next one. Psychologically, choosing a path with heart, achieving a sense of wholeness, making choices that lead to greater consciousness, and becoming fully human all have to do with being in touch with the archetype of the self. So what is your path? Perhaps you can take a moment in your pilgrim journal to write about your intention for this next pilgrimage. The purpose of pilgrimage is to make life more meaningful. Through sacred travel, individuals can find the path to the divine, the ultimate source of life. To travel this path with heart, a person has an inner world in which the ego is filled with a spiritual abundance from its connection with self. And this image comes from a temple in Seoul. To allow room for surprise and improvisation is to begin the apprenticeship of learning the way that is no way. So take time to write, draw, photograph, and become aware of what pulls your focus. This is a temple in Seoul, South Korea. Imagine writing love letters to all that you consider holy. So maybe get curious. What do I love? Phil Cosino tells us, for there is no powerful pilgrimage without love, no memorable journey without the erotic, the presence of eros, animating, enlivening, vitalizing our walks, talks, visits, meals, and conversations. There are 4 aspects of pilgrimage, according to Houston Smith. They involve the singleness of purpose, freedom from distractions, an ordeal or penance, and offerings. So ask questions along the way. Speak to the people you meet locally and find out what they find so special about where you find yourself. This is a temple in Seoul, South Korea. Cosino invites us to practice the arts of attention and listening. Practice renewing yourself every day. Practice meandering toward the center of every place. Practice the ritual of reading sacred texts. Practice gratitude and praise singing. And this was someone I met on the Masai Mara on safari. The sacred is always the revelation of the real, an encounter with that which saves us by giving us meaning to our existence. Another traveler on the Masai Mara on safari in Kenya. So what stirs your soul? For me, meeting these zebra, or as the British say, zebras, was quite profound. I had a sense of finding my animal. Again, wondering what is most sacred for you. This beautiful beach on the Pacific Ocean, Carpinteria State Beach, has called me for many years. So what if you imagine your journey as a labyrinth? Not always going directly but following the twists and turns that take you to significant emotional and spiritual places. The ritual of circumambulation, Jung often talked about with dreams, depicts the ancient symbol of the pilgrim's continuous winding motion toward the sacred center. And this spiraling staircase is at the Salvador Dali Museum in St. Petersburg, Florida. So finally, we have that sense of arrival. And on the day of arrival, in preparation, perhaps we pray or meditate upon rising. We prepare a question for the day, perhaps write a few lines in our journal, and mindfully focus on an image. Most particularly, notice what comes up as you arrive. And I can tell you, when I finally saw Iona Abbey in Scotland on the Isle of Iona, I was in tears to finally arrive in this sacred place. Another way of preparing ourselves is to question, how will I enable myself to feel the energy of the sacred place? Remember that sacred places are those that eternity shines through, like sunlight through a rose window. Whether that is in a beautiful piece of architecture or out on the savannah on the Kenyan safari. Eternity shines through for those eyes that are mostly open and aware and ready to receive. So bringing back the boon. The boon is a presence in the soul of the world that can be sensed and honored and carried home in your heart. This image is from St. Mary's Catholic Church in Rome, Georgia, Our Lady of Guadalupe. So we don't necessarily know what this presence in the soul could possibly be for our pilgrimage, but this is what we bring back with us. The story that we bring back from our journeys is the boon. It is the gift of grace that is passed to us in the heart of the journey. Perhaps it was in the form of an insight into our spiritual life, a glimpse of the wisdom traditions of a radically different culture, a shiver of compassion, an increment of knowledge. All of these must now be passed on. And this image is at Pacifica Graduate Institute. Once we've been blessed by the gift of the pilgrimage, we now must extend the blessing. As we transition back home, this is a time of return. It's a time for reintegration, wherein we recall as much as possible about the trip, visiting our pilgrimage journal, our photographs, listening into our dreams, perhaps creating something new, whether that's a collage, a painting, a poem, and allow the awakening to continue. These are the references and many of the readings that you've heard me share. And I welcome you to join us on any pilgrimage that speaks to you. Thank you for your attention.